For the mirror operation to work, you need to set the source and destination groups in the Mirror Weight tab. In my case, I'm setting shoulder R as the source group and shoulder L as the destination group. It's also important that your origin point is correctly positioned. To assist with this, I've created a button called Set Origin to Vertex Center. This allows you to quickly set the origin point to the center of the selected vertices. For instance, if you select the entire mesh, the origin point will move to the center of the selected vertices. It's worth noting that if you're in weight paint mode with an armature selected and you press Set Origin to Vertex Center, without any vertices selected, the origin point will move to the origin point of your armature. Now that I've selected the destination and source groups, I can press the Mirror Vertex Weights button. As you can see, the weights have been mirrored to the destination group. To expedite selection, you can check the Auto Set Group to Selected Bone checkbox. This means that if you select any bone in your armature, that bone will be selected in the destination field. To automatically select the source group as well, you can check these two checkboxes. The first is for when you have a bone with a corresponding bone on the other side, and the second is for when you want to mirror weights within the same group. With these options, I can quickly select the source and destination fields. It's important to note that when you're mirroring weights within the same group, you need to choose the direction for the weights to be mirrored. For example, right now I'm mirroring weights in my chest bone, so I'm using the checkbox to match the selection, and I'm setting the direction from right to left on the x-axis. The directions are based on the symmetry axis you've selected. On the x-axis, you can mirror weights either from right to left or left to right. On the y-axis, it's front to back, or back to front. On the z-axis, it's bottom to top or top to bottom. Always remember to set your origin point correctly, as all the mirroring operations are based on the origin point. You can also mirror weights in multiple groups simultaneously. To do this, enable Mirror Multiple Groups. With this option, you don't need to set a destination or source group. Simply select the bone where you want to mirror your weight paint, and the script will automatically find the corresponding bone if one exists. If there isn't one, it will mirror weights within the same group. It's crucial that if you select a bone that doesn't have a corresponding bone on the other side, you select the direction for the mirroring operation. For instance, I'm selecting my arm, shoulder, neck, and chest bones. Two of them, the neck and chest, don't have mirrored bones. For these two, you need to set the direction. In my case, I'm setting it to right to left. You may ask why you would need to select the source and destination groups when you could just use the Mirror Multiple Groups option and select one or more bones to mirror weight paint. The reason is that when you are mirroring weight on a mesh that isn't perfectly symmetrical, the weight paint might not be correctly mirrored and there could be some vertices missing weights. For this scenario, I've created these 4 options. Let's start with the Fill Missing Weights option. As you can see, I've mirrored my weight paint and there are a lot of vertices missing weights because my mesh isn't symmetrical on both sides. Now, with the Fill Missing Weights checkbox enabled, when I press the Fill Weights button, the weights will be filled in the destination group, and the weights will be filled based on the weight paint in the source group. Essentially, it creates a bounding box for the weight paint from the source group and mirrors this box on the side where the destination group is. However, if the mesh is deformed in the destination group, it might be outside this mirrored bounding box and the weights will not get filled. To fix this, we can simply increase the mirrored bounding box before filling the weights. For instance, I will increase it on the x-axis. As you can see, it has filled more vertices on the x-axis. Now I'll increase it on the y and z-axis as well. As you can see, the weights are filled correctly. While this option might be suitable for simple objects like this, it might yield poor results for more complex meshes. That's why I created the Fill Only Selected Vertices option. As the name suggests, it fills only the selected vertices in the destination group. Now you can see me selecting the missing vertices and filling them. However, it might be time-consuming to select each vertex manually, so I created the Select Missing Vertices option, which will select vertices that are missing weights when you're mirroring weights to the destination group. It's good practice to check the selected vertices anyway, to make sure it hasn't selected any vertices that we wouldn't want. This way, we can quickly mirror weights and fill only the vertices that are missing weights. As you can see, the filled weight might need some smoothing. For this, you can use the Smooth Weights option that allows you to smooth the weight paint in the destination group. You can control the weight smoothing with the Smooth Weight Factor slider. Also, if you want to smooth only selected vertices in the destination group, you can use the Smooth Only Selected Vertices checkbox. Now I'll show you some examples of how these options might work in practice. First, I'll mirror my weight paint to the armature group. I know that my mesh is deformed on the destination side, so I immediately selected the Select Missing Weights option. This allows me to quickly fill selected vertices after the mirroring process. After the fill process, I then smooth the weights using the Smooth Only Selected Vertices option. This way, the weight paint in my destination group closely matches that in my source group. The next example involves mirroring my weight paint on the y-axis for my hip bone. It's important to note that in this case, I have overlapping mesh. There is a mesh of my body, which is not symmetrical, and an overlapping, also not symmetrical mesh of pants. On top of that, I'm mirroring it on the y-axis where the front and back are completely different. The results here might not be ideal, but this is just an example of what you can achieve with this mirror feature. In the final example, I'm mirroring weights for half of my character simultaneously. Since my mesh is almost identical on both sides, I'm using the Mirror Multiple Group option. I'm selecting bones on the side where there is no weight paint. And then I press the Mirror Vertex Weights button. This process may take some time. In my case, it took around 30 seconds to mirror weights for 55 bones. The weights are mirrored correctly, apart from a few bones on the face, which I can quickly fill. Another feature of this add-in is the Pie menu for brushes. This allows you to quickly switch between different types of brushes. By default, this Pie menu is assigned to the shortcut, Ctrl+Shift+E, but of course, you can change the shortcut as you wish in the Keymaps section. I've also created a panel called Brush Items. Here, you can add or delete different brushes to your Pie menu. To add a brush, press the Add Brush button and then type the name of the brush you want to add. For example, I'm adding 3 different brushes: Mix, Blur, and Subtract. It's important that the name matches the actual brush's name exactly. You can also set the weight value and strength value for the brush you're adding. For example, if I set my Mix brush to have a weight of 0.3 and a strength of 0.3, then when I select the Mix brush from my Pie menu, it will have these values. You can also display these values in your Pi menu by checking the Show Brush Details in Pi menu box. There is a small issue though. Each time you create a new blend file, these brushes are deleted and you have to add them again. To prevent that, I've created a brush group panel. Here, you can create different brush groups, save them, and then simply load them when you open a new blend file. For instance, I'm creating a brush group called Default. Then I'll add my brushes from the Brush Items panel to that group. If you want to load brushes from your created group into the Brush Items panel so they appear in your Pi menu, simply press Load Brushes. It's important to save your created group using the Save Group button. This way, when you enter a new scene, you'll be able to load that group. To load the group into your Brush Groups panel, press the Load All Groups from JSON button. It will load all brushes that you have saved. If you want to delete any saved group, press the button with the trash can icon. To facilitate quicker access to Weight Paint mode, I've set up a shortcut, Ctrl+Shift+E. With this, you can simply select your mesh and press the shortcut. The script will automatically select the armature that is parented to that object. It's worth noting that this shortcut is the same as for the Pi menu in Weight Paint mode. However, they don't interfere with each other since they operate in different interaction modes. But of course, you can change the shortcut as you wish in the Key Maps section. Additionally, if you're in Weight Paint mode and want to paint on both sides of your mesh simultaneously, you can enable the Disable Front Face Weight Paint option. This feature allows you to swiftly select any bone you want, parent it, or switch the active bone between two selected bones. For this, I've created a pop-up menu with the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+Q. This menu contains buttons for parenting and unparenting bones, conveniently located for easy access. The menu also displays the bones you currently have selected. By pressing a bone's name, you essentially make it the active bone. Each bone has a checkbox next to its name. Checking this box indicates that the bone will be selected after the operation. Let's consider an example where I have created some bones and nested them inside each other. Suppose I want to parent the outer bone F to bone E. To do this, I select all the bones and then, in my menu, I mark bone F and press bone E to complete the operation. As a result, bone F is selected and bone E is the active selection. In this menu, I've also included a button labeled Swap Active Bone. This button allows you to swap the active bone between two selected bones, provided that exactly two bones are selected. The next feature I'm going to demonstrate involves parenting bones. This is a simple task, but having this feature can save considerable time. I've created a panel called Custom Bone Tools, which contains 3 buttons: Start Selection, Keep Offset, and Connected. Here's how it works. First, you press the Start Selection button. Then, you select the bones you want to parent. As you select them, they are added to the list in the order you selected them. The order of selection is crucial because when you press either the Keep Offset or Connected button, the bones will be parented according to this order. For example, if I selected bone A, followed by bone B, bone C, and bone D, upon pressing either Keep Offset or Connected, bone A will be parented to bone B. Then, bone B will be parented to bone C, and bone C will be parented to bone D. Now, I'll show you a quick example of how this feature might work in practice. The final feature I want to introduce is related to bone constraints. Essentially, this feature allows you to add the same constraint to multiple bones simultaneously, with the application being based on the prefix or suffix in your bone name. It's important to note that this feature only works with constraints that have a target setting. As an example, I've created 4 bones with the def prefix and 4 bones with the tgt prefix in their names. I'll be adding a copy rotation constraint to the bones with the def prefix, and the target bones will be those with the tgt prefix. As you can see, the constraints are added to all 4 bones with these prefixes. However, If you want to add the constraints to only a selected bone, you can enable the Apply to Selected Bones Only option. This option ensures that the constraints are added only to the selected source bones.